Hello, welcome everybody to Educative Newsroom, where we watch and share educative news among ourselves. We watch things that improve ourselves and people around us. Kindly subscribe as we move ahead. Now we are going to look at how much you'll be collecting as pension when you finally go on retirement. Yes, we are calculating now how much you'll be taking every month when you finally go on retirement. SSNIT is the one responsible for paying monthly pension. Tier 1 is the monthly pension, and it is managed and paid by SSNIT. Now, these are the benefits you get when you are under the Tier 1. In fact, everybody is under Tier 1 and Tier 2 because they are compulsory. Now, for the monthly pension, these are the benefits that you get. Let's read together. There are 4 types of benefits under the SSNIT scheme that members can enjoy depending on which contingency has occurred. The first one is superannuation pension, which is old age pension. That is when you finally proceed on pension at 60. The second one is invalidity pension. This one, when you become physically incapacitated, you cannot work again. They will retire you by force and start paying you pension, monthly pension, in fact. Now the next one is a survivor's lump sum. In this case, SSNIT is supposed to pay you monthly pension, but what happens when you die before then? A lump sum will be given to your survivors, your dependents. So kindly make sure you update your SSNIT beneficiaries as well, after you have done that for the Tier 2 also. Then the final one is immigration benefits. This one is for those who have contributed in the country but maybe are moving to a different country, or they are from different country, paid here, and they are moving away. They have to take away their pension contribution. So these are the 4 different benefits you get under the Tier 1. Now let's look at, we are going to focus on the monthly pension. How is the monthly pension calculated? Let's look at SSNIT's own simple definition. It says, to calculate your pension, that is monthly pension, multiply your best 3 years average salary, your best 3 years average salary by your pension rights, So there are 2 elements here that is used to calculate your monthly pension that you'll be getting. The first one is your best 3 years average, the average of your best 3 years salary. Then the second element is your pension rights. So we are going to take them one by one. Which one should we take first? Let's start with the best 3 years average. Now, for the best 3 years average, or the average of the best 3 years, it is your annual contribution, the highest years that you have contributed, your highest amount that you have contributed for 3 different years. So for public sector workers, normally they consider their last 3 years as their best 3 years. The reason being that salaries increase every year, and it is therefore presupposes that your last 3 years in active service is when you have your highest 3 years salaries, because you don't expect the salary you were earning 20 years ago to be higher than when you were getting close to 60 or 57, 58, 59 before you hit the 60 years for pension. That is for the public sector workers. What are the private sector workers? The case for the private sector workers is a bit different. Their best 3 years can be different years that are not following each other. In fact, some can go as far as 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The reason being that probably the contribution the person was making 10 years ago as a consultant, as a special assistant, the salary for that 10 years ago was way higher than when a person maybe has joined a public service and is earning a less salary, getting close to pension. Or somebody who has worked in a foreign institution, foreign companies, and earning high salaries 15 years ago at age 45, 46, was earning very high, probably lost the job and now must now find a new job. Probably the person have, as we all know, private schools, Ghanaian private schools, their salaries. So you expect that that salary at age 57, 58, 59 will be very less. So in this case, for private sector workers, they will go through the system. Which year where did you pay that very high amount of salary? Then they will pick those years for you. But because they don't want to make it flat, that your 3 years when you are getting to pension, they say the best 3 years. For public sector workers, it is your last 3 years close to pension. For other workers, it is they'll pick it the years that you have more very high salaries. Now, so these best 3 years, they'll add it together and divide it by 3. These best 3 years, they'll add it together and divide it by 3. Now, the fact is, this particular episode is emphasizing or focusing on public sector workers because it can be very much predicted. Unlike the other workers who may be working in a foreign aid mission, working as special assistant, working as some NGO somewhere, then later find different job, maybe you will not be earning that much. So the emphasis is on public sector workers. Now, when you take the public sector workers, your best 3 years, getting too close to pension, when you find the average of your 3 years, or when you find average of 3 numbers, the average is likely going to be the middle number. Yes, the average is going to be the middle number. So, for instance, if you are to find the average of 5 plus 6 plus 7, that's 18. When you divide it by 3, you are going to get 6, which was the middle number. If you take 5 plus 7 plus 9 equals to 21, when you divide it by 3, you are going to get a middle number, which is 7. Well, somebody can say that because the numbers have equal intervals, that is why we are getting this feedback. So let's make it an equal feedback, an equal interval. So you have 5 plus 7, that's difference 2, plus 10 equals to 22, divided by 3. You see that you are getting 7.33, which is still close to 7.33. We're still close to 7.33 and close to 7, the middle number, which is 7. Why am I using this example? The example is that when you are getting close to pension, 58, 50, 57, 58, 59, the middle number is going to be what? 58. So your salary, your previous year's salary is what is going to be considered as your average. That is the point we want to drive at. Your previous year's salary is going to be considered as your average. So like I mentioned before, I'm repeating. If you calculate, you take that of 57 years old, you take that of the 58 years old, and you add it to that of the 59 years old. When you divide them, you are going to get out of the salary for the 58 years. So your salary as at age 58 years is going to be your average, your 3 years average. How do we now relate that to our present situation? We have mentioned earlier in other episodes that our salaries do not actually increase in value. No, the salaries do not increase in value. They increase in nominal form. Every year they will increase 4%, they will increase 7%, they will increase 30%. You see increases, but ask yourself, when they increase the salary by 4%, were you able to afford more things that you were buying the previous years? When they increase the salary by 7%, were you able to buy more things than the money could have bought the previous years? This year, now that they have increased the salary by 30%, is the salary able to buy you more things that it could have bought last year? No. So you see that this our current salary that we'll be receiving, it is the same value that we are going to get when we get to age 57, 58, 59 and retire with it. So that point must be made. So now that we know that the salary will be earning at 57, 58, 59 are going to be the same, how then do we relate it to today? Because what we are trying to find is the value, not the nominal quantity. So in this case, we are taking our current salary, this year's salary, to be that of 59 years, because this is the year we are retiring, if we are to retire today. So our last year's salary is going to be the middle one, before the other one before the last year. So we are informing you that your last year's salary is going to be your average, your best 3 years average. So note that down. This calculation still works 10 years to come. It worked 15 years ago or 10 years ago, in the sense that the year that you are trying to analyze your situation, that year is taken as your 59th year. So if you want to do the calculation, you take your previous year's salary. So everybody can now consider or note their last year's salary down for the next part of the calculation of your monthly salary. In fact, when we are talking about salary, we are not talking about gross. We are not talking about net. We are talking about your basic salary without retention premium. Without retention premium. So when you take your salary at the top, the first item, basic salary, that is what we are referring to. So you take that one. So that is what we are going to. That is your best 3 years. That is the average of your best 3 years. We are using that of last year, not this year. We are talking about last year. If you are doing this calculation in 2030, you are going to use the number for that of the 2029. So that point must be made. Your previous year's salary is your best average. You can take it or leave it. But let's be sincere with you. That is the fact. Now we have seen our best, the average of our best 3 years, which is last year's figure. Let's go to our pension rights. The pension rights, as SSNIT has put it, the pension right is 2.5% for each year of contribution for the first 15 years and 1.125% for every additional year up to a maximum of 60 years. What it means is that the number of years that you have been contributing, the first 15 years, they take 1 year to be 2.25. So you will note that for the first 15 years, 1 year is 2.25 times 15. You will see that we have gotten 37.5. 37.5. This is a percentage. 37.5. So for the first 15 years, note it down. So assuming somebody is going to contribute for 32 years. Somebody is going to contribute for 32 years. Your first 15 years is giving you 37.5. What about the remaining 17 years? Because 32 years, when you take 15 years from 32 years, now it's 17 years. So the remaining 17 years, what is the percentage that is going to add? For that remaining 17 years, 1 year is 1.125. So let's find out of the 17 years. 1 year is 1.125 times 17. So the remaining 17 years, you are going to get 19.125%. Let's add it to the first 15 years, which is 37.5. You see that you are getting 56.625%. So this is your pension right, and this is what you are going to use to find your monthly pension. Good. But SSNIT has made it simplified so that people who cannot calculate can be able to get a figure. So you notice that, let me take a screenshot for all of us to look at this together. This is the figure here, or let me just highlight it. They have done the year and the pension right. So you note here, the 15 years below it, the pension right is 37.5. When you go to 16 years, you have 38.63%. 17 years will give you 39.75%. Now let's go to the higher years. At the next line, we have 26 years contribution. So let's go to 30 years. So anybody who contributes for 30 years is going to have a pension rights of 54.38%. 54.38%. Anyone who contributes for 32 years is going to get 56.63%. You see that this 56.63% is the same as what we got here. Good. So you see that what we have here, 56.625. When they approximate the last one, make it 56.63. So that means our calculation was on point. So before you can get 60%, everybody can get a maximum of 60%. Before you can get 60%, you must contribute for 35 years or more before you can get 60%. So what do you use this percentage for? We use this percentage to find this percentage of the last year's salary that we talk about. So if your basic salary last year, how much is it? Let's take it to be 2,500. If your last year basic salary, no retention premium, only the basic salary. If your last year basic salary is 2,500, we are now going to find 56%. So it's going to be 56.63%. So percentage, that is divided by 100. So this 100 times the 2,005 salary last year. So what it means is that the pension you'll be receiving every month is I did 25,000, so 2,500. So what it means is that your monthly pension is going to be 1,415 Ghana cedis. That's going to be your pension if your last year's salary is 2,005. So without wasting too much time, in case you are not so conversant with the calculations, let me put it this way: we cannot take these percentages to do your calculation. So you can just use this. How many years were you contributing, or will you contribute before you retire? That's the question. By the time you are retiring, how many years would you have contributed? Not how many years you have been working on, because you could be working and go on and break service. Let me put it that way: break service, or break service is the general term. You go on steady leave or did something else and came back. But the number of years of contribution is what to be using. So this is the point. Another important thing that must be mentioned is that everybody must contribute a minimum of 15 years. A minimum of 15 years to qualify for monthly pension. If you don't contribute for a minimum of 15 years and you go on retirement, they will only calculate your contribution and give you treasury bill interest on it and give it to you. Collect it and go and spend. No monthly pension for you. But if you are able to contribute more than 15 years and above, then take this percentage from here. You can just take it from here. Let me help you to scroll it slightly. So these are the percentages below. The number of years on top, the percentages below. So you can just pause it and pick the percentage. You can just pause it and pick the percentage. Good. So these are the percentages. So the next question is, how much were you collecting last year? How much were you collecting last year as your basic salary? Your basic salary. Take it and use it to multiply this. Remember these percentages, you might divide it by 100. So for instance, let's say I'm going to contribute for 29 years. So if I'm contributing for 29 years, my percentage is going to be 53.25. So let's do that again. 53.25%. So that's divided by 100. So this is my fraction. Multiplied by how much was my salary last year? Just assuming if it is 2,000, use it to multiply. So what it means that this amount is what you'll be receiving as pension when you go on retirement. Let me repeat again. This amount that we are finding today, it is not in terms of number. This is not what you are going to receive when you are going on retirement. What you'll be getting is going to be in terms of number. It's going to be very high. It could be money that you have to carry Ghana must go to collect it inside, or get a bag and pack it inside. But what it can buy, what that money can do, is equivalent to this our current 1,000 Ghana cedis and 65. On that note, take this, educate yourself, share it, subscribe, and come back for more. Our next episode is going to be about how to double your pension. How to double your pension when you are close to retirement. How to double your pension when you are close to retirement. Have a good time.